Welcome to TARDIS time.
Today we are travelling through time and space to 700 BC, where the Greeks are hosting in the Olympics. Let's take a look. Hang on a minute. Where are all the girls?
Only men and boys, and sometimes unmarried women, were allowed to attend. Unmarried women had their own festivals at Olympia every 4 years. Sorry.
That's a bit unfair.
Well, as a rule, Greek women didn't go for sport unless they were Spartans.
The Olympics were part of a religious festival in which the Greeks held athletic tournaments to honour their gods.
It looks like they're about to start their running race. The running tracks in ancient Greece are much bigger than the ones we have today. 20 people could run at once. The main race was 200 metres long.
Why are they naked? Isn't that rude?
Greek men usually played sport naked, which is another reason why girls were not allowed to watch. Men were very fond of showing off their physique. There was, however, a race in which they would have to run in a full set of armour, also carrying their shield. What's going on? Why are they fighting in the middle of the stadium?
It's the wrestling, Charlie. It's an event. In ancient Greece, two men normally just beat each other up until one was too weak to continue. There are almost definitely no rules.
Oh, I knew that. Let's move on to something less violent. I don't want our viewers to see bears getting hurt.
And for our final event of day one, the boxing.
When I said less violent...
This is ancient Greece, Charlie. It doesn't get any less violent than this.
Fine. Well, in boxing, each fighter would just whack one another until there was a winner. It's pretty similar to wrestling, but the injuries the competitors got were from the thick leather gloves they would have to wear. Now, let's move swiftly onwards before they start. Day 2 began with a procession of horses, riders and chariots down to the horse racing arena. This was the day of the chariot and horse races. The chariot racing, which just so happens to be my favourite event. The chariot race is one of the most exciting and dangerous events of the games. Each team got one chariot and would race against the other teams. To win the event, they had to cross the finish line first without crashing.
There were 2 to 4 horses per chariot, and with so many carts on the track, there was at least one crash per race. Many people would get killed. They could also get trampled on by the horses.
Coming up next, my lunch.
As Charlie was saying, coming up next is the horse racing, which is surprisingly more dangerous than the chariot racing. It looks as if the bears are lining up right now. This event is just like normal horse racing, which, as you can probably guess, involves racing a horse around a track. There's only one thing different in these Olympics: the ground. It was so rough and hard that when the riders were thrown off their horses, they usually died, and if they didn't die, they might have been trampled on.
Were there actually any safe events in these games?
Well,
I'm afraid I'm going to have to hurry you.
no.
Ah!
Moving on. I'm afraid one more event is all we have time for to watch today.
Phew! That's a relief.
So, last but not least, the javelin. A javelin was a long wooden pole about the size of an average man's height. Sometimes the javelin was thrown from horseback and occasionally at a target.
At the end of the second day of the Olympics, the Greeks participated in a pentathlon, which included 5 events. Running, wrestling, long jump, discus and javelin. The first athlete to win 3 events was crowned the winner.
Rising up, back on the street, did my time, took my chances.
The final day of the Olympics was to celebrate the accomplishments of the winners. Spectators, trainers and athletes made their way to the Temple of Zeus for the final time, with the winners leading the way.
Before the festival, a boy was chosen to cut a leafy branch from the ancient wild olive tree sacred to Zeus. The leaves were then woven into wreaths.
When the procession reached the front of the temple, the winners would come forward and the Helmodikai placed a wreath on the head of each winner.
The rest of the day and evening were spent feasting. There was a big public banquet as well as many private parties. The parties often lasted late into the night. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today on TARDIS Time, but join us next week to see how the Titanic really sunk. Thank you and good night.
Ready, steady,
Die!
Johnny! Moving on. I'm afraid... Running, wrestling, long jump...
Running, wrestling.
No, I said running, wrestling. Running, wrestling, long jump, discus and javelin.
Discus and javelin.
Final day of the Olympics was to celebrate the accomplishments of the winners. Spectres, trainers and athletes.
Spectres are ghosts.
The final day of the Olympics was to celebrate the accomplishments of the winners. When the procession reached the front of the temple, the winners would come forward and the Helmodikai...
Esther! Not again. Not again! It's recording!
I'm afraid that's all we have time for today on TARDIS Time, but join us next week to see how the Titanic really stunk.
What?
I'm afraid that's all we have time for today on TARDIS Time. I'm afraid that's all we
I got a sheet for my bed and a pillow for my head. I got a pencil full of lead and some water for my throat. I got buttons for my coat and sails on my boat. So much more than I needed before. I got money in the meter and a turbo heater. Oh, and now it's getting on the road. It's only getting sweeter. I got legs on my chairs and a head for a hair. Bought it a pan and some shoes in my feet. I got a shelf full of books and most of my teeth.